Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, I am joined by Quinn Majeski for a playthrough of Absurdia. Absurdia is a powered by the apocalypse role-playing game inspired by stories like Welcome to Night Vale, Alice in Wonderland, Gravity Falls, and The Twilight Zone. It is an absurdist modern fantasy horror game about the inane hilarity and understated horror of everyday life. You play ordinary people living out their ordinary lives in their ordinary suburban town that just happens to be unmoored from space and time and racked by the surreal entropy of chaos. You contend with arcane bureaucracy, sentient machines, maniacal PTAs, malevolent garden flora, and the occasional cosmic horror as you attempt to survive, overcome, and perhaps even escape the darkly idyllic community of Absurdia. I was so excited to play this game. It is so much fun. It is so wickedly clever and scary and surreal in all the ways that you want it to be. I had the absolute best time playing it. I think you're going to really enjoy listening to it. You can find the game at Quinn, that's QUINNM .itch.io, or check the show notes for more information. Quinn is also the host and keeper of Monster Hour, which is a horror-themed actual play podcast. Their first season was spent playing Monster of the Week. Their second season has been spent playing Absurdia. It's a wonderful show. It's a great vibe. I like it a lot. You can find more information about that as well in the show notes. Real quick, before we dive in, a special thank you to our Patreon backers, Joe White, TH, and Julian Gunn. Thank you so much for your support. You're helping make the show happen, games happen. All of the stuff that I do is supported through the Patreon. I really appreciate your support. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I could not be more excited. I'm sitting down with Quinn Majeski. Quinn, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
I am so excited. I have genuinely been looking forward to this game for a good while now. You pitched it to me, and immediately, like, it hit on a bunch of things that I was, like, so excited to play around in. And speaking of which, why don't you, at the top of the episode, take a moment to let our lovely listeners at home know about what we are playing this week, as well as anything else you've got going on that you might want them to know about.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Jeff. So today we are going to be playing a game of Absurdia, which is a game that I wrote and released back in June. So it's been at least recording time, a little over a month and a half now. So Absurdia is a absurdist modern fantasy role-playing game about the inane hilarity and understated horror of everyday life, which I think we can all relate to at this point. You play as residents of a strange suburban town unmoored from space and time where the otherworldly is ordinary and the mundane terrifying. It is inspired by works of absurd humor, surreal horror, and literary nonsense like Welcome to Night Vale, Alice in Wonderland, and Gravity Falls. It's a powered by the apocalypse game, so it uses, it's pretty narrative driven. There's playbooks, there's basic moves, there's faction moves, and a little sprinkling of some extra stuff that's, more unique in PBTA. But, anyone who's familiar with PBTA should be able to pick up pretty quick here. So Absurdia is the first game that I've designed, and I'm super excited to be able to play it here with you, Jeff, today. Otherwise, I came about game design, as many people do, through actual play podcasting. It's the gateway drug to game design, I think. I am the GM/keeper of an actual play podcast called Monster Hour. We did Monster of the Week in season 1, and we're actually playing Absurdia in season 2. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise. I am a weird Luddite. I don't actually have a personal Twitter, but you can generally find me behind the wheel at Monster Hour Pod. And then you can find Absurdia at quinm.itch.io/Absurdia. All right. I am so excited. All of those milestones, those touchstones are things that I love dearly. And I'm giddy with the opportunity to get to play around with some weird, horrifying suburbia. This is very exciting. So, you've given us kind of the big pitch. We'll talk through the like pre-game setup stuff, and then we'll play through a little bit of a scenario. Yeah, definitely.
So the playbooks are incredibly flavorful. I'm going to read through them briefly, even though I've already picked out the one that I want, just to kind of give the listeners an idea of like the characters that you'll be playing. There's the Bureaumancer, a practitioner of the bureaucracy's Byzantine arcana. There is the Curio, a purveyor of powerful and peculiar eldritch objects. There is the Forgotten Vessel, a discarded puppet of an entropic horror. There is the Paradox, a mockery of time's linearity and continuity. There is the Rascal, a mischievous youth with dangerous imagination. There is the Scrapper, a resourceful, ingenuitive, and reckless tinkerer. There is the Void Archivist, a collector and curator of memories. The Vox, a community radio host in search of the truth. The Zeitgeist, a collective consciousness spanning multiple bodies. So, all great, all very, very exciting, and it took a fair amount of effort to not go with the Vox because I am a parody of myself at all times. But I've landed on the Curio specifically because the idea of playing like a neighborhood shopkeeper is something that like is a space that I love dearly that I have not gotten to play in recently, and that is something that like I'm extremely excited about.
Yeah, I love the Curio. I'm so excited that you have landed on that one. I think who in their time playing tabletop games has not wanted to be either a shopkeep or a purveyor of weird magical objects.
It's the best. It's the absolute best.
Yeah.
So walk me through what I'm going to be doing here.
Absolutely. So, to get started, building your character and sort of building the setting for the game kind of go hand in hand in Absurdia. So you'll start on second page with getting started, where we will you'll go through and pick some of your looks and demeanor and establish a little bit about your character and what's important to you. You'll pick your ratings, kind of the core mechanical stuff for the playbook. We'll jump to around town, which is where we decide some of the like connections normally with other playbooks, but in this case, your connections with other people in town, the other residents of our strange town. We should decide if we want a specific name for this town or if we just want to go with Absurdia. I don't know if you have anything in your head.
I think Absurdia is fine. It's a great name, and it's one that puts a big smile on my face.
Fabulous. That's my go-to, but sometimes we come up with different ones. We'll talk a little bit about factions. Factions are a mechanic, certainly not unique to Absurdia among PBTA games, but there are factions in Absurdia: bureaucracy, community, entropy, and underbelly. They're not at war, but they do sort of rival for influence and control of certain areas of town. So we'll talk about your relationship to those factions, and then you'll pick your moves and your gear, and then we will be off to the races.
Hell yeah, love it. So we'll start with getting started. I'm going to choose a few options from my look and demeanor. The options off of this list for look that I really like. I'm gonna go garish and stylish clothes is what I'm going with.
Love it.
I think like I picture a little bit of like local theater director, like small town community theater director. So
Incredible.
Definitely like a vest and a little ascot.
Yes.
Cause like the shop that I'm envisioning is like kind of not quite like a junk store, but like a fancy oddity store is the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Crystals and dragon figurines is like a core piece of it. So my demeanor, I'm going to choose 1 to 2 that describe my attitude. I'm saying inquisitive. I'm going to go smooth. I think smooth and inquisitive is a good way to go. I envision that being like a little bit like warm, like that, which kind of bleeds into the next few things that I'm going to be like choosing, but I picture warm. I picture kind of has a story for everything in the store, eldritch or horrifying or otherwise. Like, will talk your ear off about any single piece of ephemera that lands in his store.
Love it.
So why don't you walk me through the 3 questions for the character?
Yeah, absolutely. So these questions are meant to just kind of establish a little bit of backstory, just enough to sort of head into the game. So when did your first object find you?
I think my first object found me. Sometimes when you don't have an immediate answer, you have to pull from the deepest pieces of your soul and just let that answer fall forth, which is,
Oh yeah.
it was a small town in a small convention in Absurdia. It was like a comic book or anime convention. It was some piece at some booth that I happened to be at, and I ended up coming back to that booth about 6 times before I finally bought the damn thing. And like, I don't necessarily even know why I was at that convention. There are very specifically kind of gaps in my memory of like what brought me there, or like what possessed me to go on that day, or when I bought my ticket, but like I found myself there, I found myself in front of that object, and I just kept walking in a circle around it until I finally bought it.
Amazing. What is the object?
That is a great question.
Or do you want to leave it up to decide later?
I'm going to pull it off of the list of curios, because I know I'm supposed to choose 2 items off of this list. And I think it being the imp of the perverse.
Incredible.
Is very funny to me, especially if it is going full suburban with it. Like, if it is not like an old statue or like a homunculus or something, it looks like a Funko Pop.
Yes.
But incredible. It looks like a Funko Pop for some kind of fantasy creature that you don't know. Like, if you picture in your head, like, the magical statue that, like, that would in any other, like, serious, like, supernatural, thing turn alive and call, like, a picture of, like, a supernatural gremlin that would turn alive. If you picture the Funko Pop of that, that's what this looks like.
Incredible. I love it. Okay, so the second question is, what is the most treasured piece of your set?
The most treasured piece of my set is, also looking at this list, just because it's a very good and colorful and flavorful list, the burnt feather of Icarus.
Yes. I
think unlike this haunted Funko Pop, this is like unmistakably, supernatural, right? Like, this is, whereas the other one is very kind of silly and playful, this is very specifically like old and ornate and delicate and like looks magical, right? Like, there is no mistaking that this is a weird old object. This like long winding, sort of warped and kind of, like misshapen wax feather that like has melted and reformed, so it's got that sort of like lumpy hardened wax look to it. It is the treasure of my collection.
Fabulous. When did its whispers lead you most astray?
When the doll whispered in my ear that like I should open a shop. Like, it was the opening of my store that led me most astray, because it meant that I was, trapped in I was trapped in a place that has become increasingly unnerving as time has gone on, right? Like, I think that, like, there are other curios or other dealers of objects, and I think that, like, pulling back on that convention thread, like, the traveling convention figurine salesman circuit, like, is maybe where I belong, and instead I'm here in this shop.
You're feeling a little tied down?
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Awesome. So those are the background questions. Next, you're going to pick 2 agendas. In Absurdia, agendas are, you don't, when you fail, you don't gain experience. You gain experience rather by pursuing certain agendas. So there are 4 for each playbook, and you get to choose 2.
I am going to choose a pillar. You actually care about this strange town and its residents. Mark experience when you save an innocent person from certain death. And I am going to choose hypothecary, a scholar of the occult and arcane. Mark experience when you utilize a curio in a new or novel way. I like that, like, even though I feel tied down in this store, like, the town of Absurdia is one that I like, right? Like, it's that very nice pull of finding yourself feeling at home in a place that you thought you were trying to get away from.
Yeah, definitely. I like that sort of tension there. I think that's really cool. So next up, you will go ahead and pick your ratings. So there are 4 ratings in Absurdia. There's cheek, which is sort of your social ability, interpersonal charm relationship. It's used for sway and hoodwink. There's wits, which is sort of your quick thinking and assessment, which is used for assess reality and save your skin. There's pluck, which is sort of your both your mental and physical fortitude, used to face fear and fight for your life. And then finally, there is chaos, which is your connection to the sort of entropic forces that are unraveling this town slowly but surely, which is used to embrace chaos.
And I've got +1 cheek, +0 wits, -1 pluck, and +1 chaos. I'm going to increase one of those by 1, and I'm going to increase wits by 1 because I picture this character as astute is the kind of the best way to describe it. I picture him as being good at I picture him good at sort of the Antiques Roadshow routine of like looking at a thing and knowing its history at a glance.
Love it. Awesome. So next we're going to jump to around town, which is your relationships in town. We're going to skip over bonds because bonds are usually for, the other players. So we'll skip over that. But we will do contacts, which are your connections, pre-established connections to some other folks in the town. So go ahead and pick. There's a list for each playbook. Go ahead and pick one friend and one rival, and tell me a little bit about them.
Okay, so I've got my contacts. My friend is Cosmo Bailey, who is a regular customer. I think Cosmo is maybe because the playbook pulled me in a direction, and I think Cosmo is the morning zoo radio host.
Yes,
and so is always on the lookout for weird stuff to put in the studio or in his home studio because he kind of does video and streaming stuff from his house. So picks up a lot of weird and goofy things, posters and weird figurines and stuff, and is a regular customer that kind of, and maybe runs events around the store, right? We have that kind of nice working relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my rival, who is Alistair Berg, Alistair is very specifically an antiques dealer, and whereas my store is the sort of goofy weirdo shop with your figurines. And I originally said earlier that I was the dragon and crystal shop, but I think I'm leaning further into being the weird junk shop where you find lucha masks and old DVDs.
I love it.
That kind of curio shop is one that I've spent a lot of time at and I love dearly, and so I'm leaning back in that direction.
I'm into it.
Because that makes Alistair the proper antique shop.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes and that feels very fun, to have that as a rival.
Yeah, I love that. Pronouns for Alistair?
Alistair, let's go. Alistair is he, they, and Cosmo will say is he, his.
Awesome. Great. And then the last thing is factions. So as the Curio, your faction is Underbelly. Tell me one thing that is true about the Underbelly in this town. It can be a person, a place, a belief, a rumor. Just this is just one thing to establish the fiction about Underbelly.
The Underbelly, the thing that I'm going to say that is true is you can all, everybody, regardless of what they do, right? Regardless of what they do, anybody that is, affiliated enough with the Underbelly has somewhat of the equivalent of a stage name.
Ooh, okay.
In the sense that, Cosmo, I think, even is just, a regular customer, as the host of the radio show is known as... What's a good radio show? What's a good morning DJ name? It's the Stink. Cosmo is known as the Stink.
Incredible.
Because it's like it's like RJ and the Stink, and Cosmo is the Stink.
Incredible. I
and
love
so
it.
like everybody that is like deeply affiliated with the underbelly, regardless of if they are a performer in some capacity, or like if they just are a shopkeeper or whatever they have some kind of stage name to them. Like it's a little bit of a thieves' cant situation of like, or a true name situation of like everybody kind of has a rock star persona that they put on when dealing with people from the underbelly.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Does Alistair have a stage name? Do we know it?
Alistair's stage name is
or is he too good for a stage name?
I'm trying to decide.
Because maybe he's not underbelly. Maybe he's too good for it. He's community.
That feels right. That feels
Okay.
right. I think that's also part of the friction between us, is that like I have leaned into sort of the weirdo culture of Absurdia, whereas Alistair is like, this should be like a proper thing, there's a proper history here that I'm not honoring.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. And then finally, you start with the following reputations. Reputations and faction moves come into play more in longer term play, but we might get to them in a one shot. Who knows? So you start with -1 bureaucracy, 0 community, 0 entropy, and +1 underbelly.
Got it.
And lastly, you'll go ahead and pick your playbook moves and gear, and then go ahead and settle on a name.
All right. So I'm definitely picking brick and mortar. I've opened up a shop. I have +1 reputation with community. When determining a faction, I can choose to stay in for underbelly or community. And the other one that I want is object empathy. When you study an interesting object, roll +chaos, and then I'm going to ask some questions associated with that.
Actually, as the curio, because you get 2 curio objects, which are basically moves, you only get 1 other move.
Oh, got it. Yep. Then yeah, I'm definitely choosing brick and mortar. I've got a store. It is like a place where it is a place in the community where I exist.
Awesome. What's your store's name?
The store's name is the Shadow Cabinet.
Oh, that's excellent.
And I think that my name is Chad Hawksley. And I go by my stage name is Shadow, but people will sometimes call me Chado, and I can't really stop them from doing that.
You can't stop me from doing that.
I kind of also love it. I think as part of it also is that Chado is also just great. And so like, it's one of those like begrudgingly smiling nicknames of like, I can't stop you from calling me that, but it does put a smile on my face.
Incredible. Chado is very good.
And my store is the Shadow Cabinet.
Yeah, and you talked, because it sort of related to your background questions, but you talked a little bit about your 2 curios, but do you want to read those real quick, or do you just want to do them while you're in play?
The Burnt Feather of Icarus, which allows me to mark 1 objectivity to gain the power of flight for the remainder of a scene. And then I also have the Imp of the Perverse, which once per session I may push myself without having to mark objectivity.
Yeah, and just for a little context, pulling the curtain back just a little bit on the mechanics, there's a pretty standard harm track for PBTA for Absurdia, but each playbook has an essence track, essence representing kind of a unique resource, the unique aspect of the playbook that helps you resist the surreality of the town. And for the curio, that is objectivity. You can use essence to push yourself or help out on a basic move, so you get to roll 3d6 and discard the lowest to avoid all harm from a single attack, or to use certain playbook moves like the ones you highlighted. And then if you run out of objectivity, you gain fractures, which sort of build up over time, and if you get too fractured, then you shatter.
Love it.
Fabulous. And then you have you start with some gear, and then you get to choose one weapon.
So I have a satchel, briefcase, purse, pocket-lined trench coat, or similarly multifaceted container in which to store my wares. Pocket-lined trench coat is too good to pass up, truly. Like, legitimately and truly. And an archaic or heirloom weapon, either a letter opener, a hand-carved wand, an engraved flintlock pistol, or a gilded aegis. I think it is an engraved flintlock pistol that is leaning into the sort of oddity shop nature. It is a replica movie prop. So it is engraved, but it is specifically like stylized to look like a notable like pirate movie pistol, right? Like I can be like, yeah, this is the one he used in Duet of Steel. Like this is a piece of movie history.
Is it signed?
It is not, and it is not, which is why I am okay using it, because I think I have some signed merch that I keep behind glass. But
Definitely.
This one, I'm like, I think if Chad is asked about it, he will tell people that he carries it with him because one day he's gonna cross paths with a cast member from Duet of Steel, and and he's like, I'm not passing up this opportunity.
Okay, love it. Awesome. I think that is it for character creation. So we have Chad, the Shadow, Chado, Hawksley.
I love it.
The Curio. Incredible. So when you told me that you wanted to play the Curio, I got a brainworm of an idea, and I have to say it, even if we don't run with it. I have to say it, and if you don't like it, we can do something else. But my thought was to basically have this. My thought was to center our play around the Surreality TV show, Auction Games.
That's great. I love this.
No, sorry, not auction games. Storage games. So something of a cross between Storage Wars and the Hunger Games.
Great. Great. Incredible.
What does that vibe feel like for you?
That feels very, very fun to me.
Okay.
As noted reality TV trash, that feels incredibly up my alley.
I thought it might. Tremendous. So I think we could go one of two ways here. And it kind of just depends on how much you want to be sort of in your store versus not in your store. This could be a TV show that you have entered, or a surreality TV show that you have entered as a contestant. We're in the interdimensional storage unit, and you and other competitors are in this game. Alternatively, maybe the producers have seized on your store for this as the setting, and you've got a bunch of people coming into your store trying to sort of dig through its wares. Which way are you feeling here?
I think featuring the store is fun, and so I think I'm gonna Jeff Stormer it a little bit and say both. And I think what it is maybe we start in the store and because leaning into the surreality of like hitting the themes hard. If we start in the store, and then that guides us to the interdimensional storage space, which in the grand sort of magical reality show nature of this becomes attached to the back room of the store.
Incredible.
That's really fun.
I love that. Okay. Awesome. I think we can jump in then. Tell me a little bit more about the Shadow Cabinet.
The Shadow Cabinet is, God, I really love oddity shops. There used to be a really great one on South Street in Philly, and then it closed down. But just weird stuff stores are one of my absolute favorite things. And I think this doesn't have the effect of a traditional antique store or pawn shop. It has its own sort of vibe to it. And part of that involves like you walk in and like it's a lot of like pop culture-y junk. So it's a lot of you walk in and it's old action figures and there's a bunch of mannequin heads on the top shelf that are wearing replica lucha masks. You know, we see Paladin Jr., we see all of these old masks up here, and like it's all just kind of weird stuff and everything's got a history to it. And I think like there's a great deal of there's photos on the wall of like various celebrities of various levels kind of like lingering up on the wall, like alongside, like next to, like you'll see an old sword and you know, the side character from the Highlander TV series that held the sword is up next to it to kind of like, and I think like there's a level of the decor of it, like alongside the objects, the decor of it is a little bit theatrical. Like I think that like there's like a big kind of linoleum print on the door of like a red curtain, so when you open it, it kind of like looks like you're passing through a red curtain. And like there are posters that are held up in those like movie theater poster signs with the lights on them.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing kind of has this aesthetic of kind of tying into how Chad like interacts with the world and the community. It has the energy of like the stuff is only part of the appeal, and part of the appeal is like coming and seeing the story behind everything.
Is it like do folks come in just to like peruse?
I'm gonna say this directly because this is a fun little touch. We get a fair number of people who come in to peruse and like take pictures and things. And I think like a good chunk of the business, because Chad is Chad and because he has the relationship with the stuff that he has, a fair number of like the daily business is that Chad will you can come in, and for people that kind of just want to come in and take pictures of the weird stuff, Chad will sell like a $5 like guided tour.
I love it.
It's kind of his way of skirting around. Like he has a please don't photograph the stuff if you're not going to buy it rule, but like the way that he skirts around it is like, if you pay $5, I'll guide you on a tour. You can take some pictures. Like it's his kind of Instagram influencer pitch. It's like, I'll let you take the pictures. I'll let you stroll through it. You pay me $5. You get an hour of entertainment out of it.
Incredible. I love it.
And it's like a decent,
hustle.
It's like a decent chunk of, it's kind of a decent foundation of the business in its own right. Like, it's not necessarily like the thing he's most passionate about, but he enjoys the opportunity to get to like show off whatever the newest thing that he bought is, and it's a good playful energy.
I love this store. It's tremendous. I can picture it in my mind, and it's just fabulous.
Like I said, I love these stores with all of my heart.
Oh yeah. So on any given day, it's just a any given Sunday, any given Monday, whatever it is. Tell me what it's like in the morning.
The mornings are pretty slow. I think that like he gets in, he pulls up the metal grating. He, kind of walks through and makes sure that everything is arranged in the way that it's supposed to be. And he just kind of like does a lot of setup and does a lot of like repositioning things, because he likes to know that if somebody's coming in multiple days, there will be like different displays. And I think if it's a Monday, there had to be like a convention last weekend, because I think weekends are for yard sales and garage sales and conventions and events. They're for gathering stuff. So there's a little bit of like going around being like, okay, I got this thing, I'm going to make this little display. So he's rearranging the action figure displays. He's swapping out the little like set pieces. He's pulling out different magazines to kind of showcase the magazine and the comic book racks. It's kind of the slowest point of the week, and it's kind of when he is sort of the busiest in terms of rearranging the store for the coming week.
Got it. Okay. So you got a bunch of new stuff. You're getting it all set up. Do you have one of the bells on the doors that rings when someone comes in?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
It is a sound effect machine that does like the sound of a creeping bell and like a horror movie, like a horror movie organ noise.
Incredible. So we jump in. I think wherever you are in the store, you hear that sound. You hear that like horror sound of someone coming through the front door of the shadow cabinet.
And I think he kind of like peeks his head from around a door, like, and kind of gives like a little, like he's flustered, but tries to still put on the show of like, welcome to the shadow cabinet. Feel free to look around if you'd like the guided tour, if you plan on taking pictures. We do offer a guided tour for $5. Otherwise, we ask that you reserve taking photos of anything. But if you want to ask about prices or you want to ask about the history behind any of the magnificent curiosities that we offer here, I am your master. They call me the Shadow. They call me the Chado because my name is Chad. I hate it, but I kind of love it. But if you're looking around, take a look, ask questions, explore the space.
Yeah, so this person at your sort of beckoning turns towards you. They're wearing black jeans and a sort of baggy black button-up. Where their head should be is just a like big movie camera, like a big video camera that you would see on a movie set. And sitting on top of that camera are a pair of shades and a hat. And the camera face turns towards you, and this person starts walking your way, and not from any discernible place or anything, but you do hear them say to you, "Hey, Chad, the Chado, how's it going? I'm Polly Paquette, the host of Storage Games. It's really good. Like it's so good to see you. We've been really excited about this. Really, just like pumped. You've got a great place here. We're so excited to show it. Tell me everything. Tell me all about it."
And I think that he pauses for a second and just like, could do this. This is technically a purchase, but it was for TV, so I'll let it slide. I think he like thinks about it. He decides he's gonna let it slide, and then goes, "So the Shadow Cabinet was opened about 2 years ago. I had been collecting some of this stuff. I've been a pop culture junkie my whole life. I've been collecting this stuff, and I realized this was an opportunity to really share it with the world. Not just share stuff, but really build a community. The weirdos and the freaks of Absurdia kind of show off a little bit. We kind of fancy ourselves the punk rock antique shop." And he pauses. Crap, I should have named myself the Punk Rock Antique Shop. It's fine. We kind of fancy ourselves a little bit of a punk rock spirit. We're kind of bringing a different energy to the antique market of Absurdia, and people they come in, they take pictures. It's a fun store with great energy, and we really love having people come by.
As you pause to make your aside, that you should have named it the Punk Rock Antique Shop, there's a laugh track that picks up from absolutely nowhere at all. And when you finish, Polly Paquette turns, and you can see that there are two drones with cameras coming in, and they kind of like fan out in the store. And Polly Paquette turns to one of those drones and says, "Looks like a fabulous place for our contestants to explore and bid on. This is going to be a really exciting episode. Thanks, Chad. You know how the show goes, right?"
Trying to decide if Chad is the person to be honest and a jerk, or lie and try to be your friend. I'm looking at let me look at my pillars and my personality here. I think the smoother and the more inquisitive option is to have him say, "I've seen the show, but how it is producing reality TV. I've talked with radio people, I've talked with TV people. Why don't you give me the rundown so that you can I know you've got a speech prepared. Why don't you give me the rundown just so I can be up to speed?"
Polly claps his hands together and he's like, "All right. So our 5 contestants are going to have 5 minutes to view the store from the windows." You see there's 5 people crowded outside of your store. One of them you recognize as Alistair Berg, who's kind of like peering in with sort of thin eyes, eyeing your wares. I think another one is just like an animatronic mouse that you've seen around town. And they're all sort of looking in, and Polly Paquette continues.
One of them is actually two. One of them is actually two people, the identical twins, the Bidding brothers.
Incredible, yes. Hank and Tank, the Bidding brothers. They're regulars on the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
They always get some local folks. They always get some regular guests.
You gotta have the ringers.
Yeah, totally. So you've got 5 people looking hungrily in on the windows of your store. And Polly continues, our 5 contestants are going to have 5 minutes to study from a distance before they get a chance to head inside. It'll be free for all. Grab whatever they can get. No holds barred. Anyone who is able to get in and get out of the store gets to keep what they find.
I think that his eyes go wide as he kind of takes in what was just said. So, yeah. Give me some time. I want to get the store in order before... Yeah, that's great. That sounds like a blast. Let me just... I got to move some of the more fragile objects if there's going to be a free-for-all. So I'm going to take a few minutes to get the store in order, and then we'll kind of get off from there.
Your 5 minutes starts now.
Oh, no. Oh, God. And I think that like there's the pop culture junk, and then there's the kind of magical junk that is scattered amongst it. And there's a very real feeling of like, oh no, somebody's gonna come in and grab something and like summon a ghost or some shit. I really gotta like get this cleaned up. And I think is like kind of like moving through the store with quickness to try and like grab. I think like sees the Icarus feather. It's in like a beautiful rack. It's on like a little thing on the wall behind the counter, and kind of like hops up and kind of pops it off of the wall and is like kind of stashing that and like looking around going like, oh, I gotta hide the stuff that's really gonna like turn this into a nightmare.
Yeah, and as you're doing this, Polly is like facing one of the drone cameras that's floating around, kind of doing like a camera to camera. And you can hear him whispering under his breath, while the participants have 5 minutes to look at the wares, the host also has 5 minutes to try to save what they can. We'll see what the Chatto tries to save. Looks like he's going for the feather of Icarus. A smart choice. That's, likely to fetch, in Absurdia, I always like to make currency something that makes absolutely no sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's likely to fetch, probably a good 1.2 thousand pogs on the market.
This guy has no idea what he's talking about. This is worth at least 2.5 pogs.
Yeah. So aside from grabbing your curios, is there anything that you do, or what are you doing in this brief window that you have to ready your store before people come in?
I think I am consciously like anything. I think I am consciously like putting out, consciously like both the curios and like the sort of ordinary antique objects that might be fragile or like difficult to replace, or like there are certain objects that like are more for show than they are for selling. Like there are certain things that I have in display that are there to, and they're kind of priced that way, right? Like they're if you ask me, I'm like, yeah, that's worth 2,000 pogs. But like there are certain objects there that are pretty much there for when you want to spend $5 to get a selfie with some weird shit. So I am like consciously hiding away the things that I'm like, I don't want this to get smashed up in a free for all. And I am consciously like, as I do that, like reaching back behind things to put out the stuff that I'm like, if this gets broken, if somebody grabs this to try and claim it, like I can get a replacement Slimy McKeelberg action figure pretty easily. Like this is an easy enough action figure for me to replace. And so like is consciously like swapping things out and trying to like position the store in such a way that like it is easy for it can survive a hurricane of reality show contestants.
Okay, incredible. So this sounds like a hoodwink. When you lie, mislead, or trick someone to achieve your ends, roll plus cheek.
All right, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So that is +1. That is a 6.
Yikes. On a miss, you might find yourself caught, trapped, or otherwise in hot water. Let's see. I think what happens here, and feel free to, if you have an idea, I love suggestions, and in Absurdia, the game encourages everyone to suggest things for a miss. So, but my thought here is, everyone's watching you through the windows. So, I think everyone can see what you're like putting out and what you're putting away. And so, they're still, they all know where the good stuff is as the timer counts down here.
That's really, really great. And I think what is the object? What is the object? Because I feel like one of the joys of the curio is getting to like put new weird objects on the table.
Oh yeah.
What is the object that what is the particularly magical object that I like, whether it was in an auction or like a convention, or like what did I snatch out from under Alistair's nose that was partially done in the sense of like, I want this for the store, and partially done in the sense of I want this to make sure that like a weird magical thing is not floating around recklessly.
Ooh, that's a good question. It's got to be something like high end for Alistair. My initial like gut thought is a self-playing harp that always recalls to you your fondest memory in vivid detail.
That's great. I love that. I really, really like that. So like, I think and I think the other part is like, as I'm doing this, I stash some things behind a curtain, and then, because the curtain is made with PVC pipe, the PVC pipe falls over, and like, Alistair gets a straight shot at where that harp is kept.
Yeah, as that happens, there's another round from the laugh track that just seemingly, it comes up from all angles of your
looking
store.
Over his shoulder, grumbling, kind of like, gets about to throw a middle finger and then looks and realizes he's on camera. Is like, no.
Yeah, there's a drone camera on you. Okay, so Alistair has a clear look at the self-playing harp. And when it gets to there's actually I think as the timer counts down, you can see that there's just like a floating like visual, not like a hologram, but like just a random sort of manifestation, almost like a CGI, but in real time, of like a countdown timer in the middle of your store. And you're doing your best. You're trying to hide things. And the timer is counting down, and finally it reaches to 3, 2, 1, and the doors fly open. And Hank and Tank are in first, and they're just kind of like, pawn through stuff. And searching and looking through all the things, holding up items and comparing them to one another. The animatronic mouse is in and behind your front desk, and Alistair is making a beeline for the self-playing harp. And all the while, Polly is just offering some color commentary to the cameras.
I think my first priority is the harp, right? I think my first priority is to make sure that Alistair does not get his hands on that harp. So I think that what he's going to do is like quietly like duck behind the counter, like narrowly avoid bumping into the animatronic mouse, and like kind of reach around the mouse's shoulder to kind of grab the Funko Pop that I am naming we're gonna name Krabby. I'm gonna grab Krabby, look Krabby in the eye and go, You gotta trip that they gotta get knocked over, and like puts Krabby down, and Krabby kind of I picture a little bit like the animatronics or the creature effects from like Gremlins, a little bit of that like not quite full articulation, kind of runs over and sort of trips Alistair up at the ankles while Chad is jumping over the counter and kind of like semi-playfully playing it up to the camera so that doesn't get noticed immediately, but like jumping in front of the bidding bros and being like, Oh yeah, this is authentic. This actually this was pulled out of a house where there was a grisly 7-person murder. This was the one thing that didn't have any blood on it from the room. Ooh, spooky.
Amazing. Okay. Let's see. This one doesn't quite fit neatly into any of the moves here.
So I will say, at least as far as Alistair goes, I am using my Imp of the Perverse Curio move once per session, pushing myself without having to mark objectivity. I know that's not quite that's not quite like a technical move, but just I like the idea of just this feels like a good opportunity to use that just to thoroughly trip up Alistair in whatever way that would look like.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's call this an Embrace Chaos, because it's my favorite move. When you contend with a source of entropic power, roll plus chaos.
Then, in fact, then I am going to roll 3d6 and take the 2 highest.
Yeah. This Krabby is very, very chaotically powerful.
All right, that is... I'm very glad that I rolled that third dice, because that came up a 6, which removes that 1 from contention. Which changes that 4 to a 9, and plus 1 makes that a 10. Makes that a 10 plus.
There you go. So on a 10 plus, you get to choose 2 options from the list below. You gain a clear understanding of the power's source, effects, motives, and motives, if any. You quell the power's effect or fan its flames. You briefly wield this power's effect. You subvert this power to achieve your ends, take +1 forward. You inflict or heal 1 harm on a nearby target, or you mark or erase 1 essence.
Let's say I briefly wield this power's effect. In this instance, I'm going to say is Krabby as like a supernatural entity embodying this doll.
Definitely.
And the effect being, I think like tripping people up and causing mischief throughout the store is how I briefly wield it. And I think the other thing that I want is to gain a clear understanding of the power source, effects, and motives. I think that like, even as I've had Krabby for a long time, like I don't quite know it, partially because I've kind of kept Krabby like close to chest. And this is maybe the first time I've like fully just unleashed it in the store. And so now I'm kind of gaining an understanding of like, what is the thing that embodies Krabby is.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, we see you, well, you tell me, what does this look like?
First things first is like Alistair is like approaching the harp, and Krabby, it's a little bit Sam Raimi is the best way to describe it, right? Like this is a little bit, Krabby Loose in the Store is a little bit of a Sam Raimi energy of, like the little tiny ashes from Army of Darkness. Like, so we get a quick shot of Krabby popping up, and I think like, When we see Krabby in frame as Alistair is approaching the harp, it's less of a Funko Pop and now fully embodying that sort of little gremlin look. Like it has kind of become that thing. Kind of ties their shoes together so that they kind of tumble, and then he wipes out. Krabby scampers off. I think that the animatronic mouse has like picked up the Highlander Zord, and like Krabby like is just kind of standing and giggling right behind the mouse's shoulder as it kind of takes a step back to examine the sword and kind of falls backwards, and like the sword comes up, and I think at that moment like Chad just kind of leans over and effortlessly grabs it and puts it back on the rack and leans forward and is like, you see, this actually, have you seen season 4 of Highlander, the new TV series, the reboot, not the original? Because this sword was very prominently featured. You can see that photo right there. It's a really cool piece of Hollywood memorabilia. Bye! And like ducks off, and it's just all like kind of goofy. I think at one point one of the Bidding brothers tries to put on a lucha mask, and and suddenly is just like scratching their head a lot because Krabby was kind of like clinging to the top of the mask and has just started biting and scratching the top of his head like ah. So like Hank is flailing and Tank is trying to get the mask off of him, and it's just like kind of general chaos that sort of trips them up as they're looking at things in the store.
I love this. Is there a lucha mask that fuses to your face like the mask?
Oh god, there's absolutely gotta be.
Oh,
and I think that there is a mask that fuses to your face, and I think like I think one of the bidding brothers almost puts it on until like trying to decide, what do I want to trip them up, or do I want it to just fuse to his face? Screw it, fuses to his face.
Hell yeah.
I don't know why I'm trying to be so precious towards the bidding brothers.
Oh no. Yeah, so it's Tank definitely, and it fuses to his face, and he turns to Hank and says, "Brother, stop me!" And he starts running around the store.
Right.
So I think, seeing this scene. Oh, and the studio audience the laugh track is out of control at this point. I think seeing this scene, you understand that Krabby is an agent of chaos, like a avatar of entropy. Him for Krabby? Yeah.
We'll go he it.
He it. Okay. Its purpose is to cause chaos, and especially by changing the outcome of the fates, as he is capable of doing.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I like that a lot. I think this is kind of I like that picture a lot, right? Like this feels like a good opportunity to kind of click that into place. And I think there is a level of concern that Chad gets kind of watching this play out, kind of realizing like, oh, I got to be real careful with this. Cause like there's a level of menace to that as I'm watching, like, oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
It's not pure, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you've definitely, waylaid Alistair and generally caused some mayhem among the participants of, storage games. I think the timer was counting down to 5 minutes. Now there's, I'm going to say another 5-minute timer that's been, counting down for participants to sort of raid your store. And it's, I'd say maybe, let's call it like halfway done at this point.
Yeah.
What's the scene like? As this, I think is Krabby always animated, or is this like a momentary thing that you can activate?
I think it's a momentary thing. I like the arrangement with Krabby kind of being if it is a being, right? Like if he has a will, and I think he does, I always like the vibe of person who has to talk with the magical object. And so I think it is that like we have a little bit of an arrangement, kind of a vibe of kind of an Eddie Brock Venom vibe, where like I talk to it and nobody can hear it but me. And so like we've kind of at this point gotten to an arrangement of like I say when it comes out, right? Like he and I have reached our terms of like when he comes out and comes to life, and this was the first time I've maybe done it during business hours.
Amazing. Okay, so you reel Krabby back in. The timer is about halfway done. I think Polly Paquette pulls up next to you with his big like movie set camera head and says, "Well, we're about halfway through, Chado. How you feeling about the game so far?" We're very much in like the middle of a reality TV show. The chefs are like in the action, and the host is like all up in your face for no reason whatsoever.
Sweaty, grabbing the ascot and dabbing sweat off my face. Doing great. Really good, loving the energy. Everybody here's got a lot of enthusiasm. Nothing's on fire yet. Nobody's soul has been taken yet. It's been a pretty good day.
Are you feeling the pressure? Are you feeling the pressure?
Feeling the pressure. I'm feeling the pressure.
Well, you look great. Let's go talk to our participants, and see how they're doing. And he steps away. As this happens, you hear the door chime once again. And your friend, the Stink, steps through the door into the scene.
Stink!
Hey, what's up? How's it going? What's going on here?
Do you want the honest answer of how it's going, or do you want me to tell you it's going great?
I want the honest answer, man. Come on.
Oh my god, it's going so bad.
Can I help with anything? Hey, is that Alistair?
Yeah, it's Alistair. They're here. They're trying to listen. Here's how you can help. We got like 2 minutes. We got like 2 minutes, and I could use your help like right now.
Wait, is this storage games? Oh my god, are you on storage? Am I on storage games?
The drone cameras have pinned over. A title card has appeared in front of Cosmo that says "The Stink, local radio personality."
Hey mom, I love you.
Hey, Stinks mom. Listen, I need your help, and I could use it right now.
Give me a roll to sway. Let's do some moves here.
Let's do it.
When you offer an NPC a convincing reason to do something, roll plus cheek. I think you're working against the Stink's desire to vogue for the camera here.
I think
as opposed to be your friend.
That feels good. That is plus cheek, so that is a 9.
Okay, on a 7 to 9, they will do it, but I will choose an option from the list below. They want more than what you're offering. They demand payment up front. They have a better idea for achieving your goal, or they stall and dither for a while. The last one feels pretty good to me.
The last one does feel good.
Yeah, I think the Stink is caught up, like saying hi to everyone that he knows while the camera is on him. And I think we get like one drone camera like facing him and another one looking at him and seeing you in the background. And just the frustrated expression on your face. I think as this happens, let's see. How do we think this unfolding scene breaks bad for you in the second half here?
I think that like I like the idea that maybe as much as Krabby did trip Alistair, like I think the greater success that we got was that the mouse and the bidding bros have been kind of occupied, and they're sort of like largely kept to the sort of Hollywood tchotchkes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that the chaos that Krabby inflicted was like largely dealt to the bidding bros and the animatronic mouse. And I think that the particular, like, I think that what Chad was going to ask Cosmo was like, we need to get this harp upstairs. Like there's a staircase to kind of the upper attic that like has been kind of chained off, and like nobody's been kind of up there, and it's like we need to get this upstairs now. And I think that the way that this breaks bad, the way that the fear kind of kicks in this moment is it's kind of a race against time of like we have to get this heavy thing up the stairs, because if Alistair gets their hands on it, he's going to get to claim it as theirs, right? Like like Alistair gets to claim it if they get their hands on it, so it's like a race against time against Alistair, and they are much closer to the harp than we are.
I love that. So you see Alistair has recovered from Krabby's sort of mischief making. I think they've untied their shoes, and maybe I have it in my head that Krabby pantsed Alistair, and so because he's so hoity-toity, I like that image. But Alistair is righting themselves, and I think you can see from across the shadow cabinet, they are making their way back towards that harp, and Polly Paquette is seated on the front desk, and I think he's got his big movie set camera head pointed and following Alistair, and the audience is murmuring. What do you do?
I think I know exactly what I want to do, and I might ask for a move here.
Mm-hmm.
Because this feels like a good opportunity. I know that we mentioned potentially getting to a faction move, but this feels like a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
I think I turn to Polly, and I say, what is Polly's stage name?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd envision Polly as not necessarily part of Entropy, but we can give him a stage name.
Well, it's people in Underbelly that have it. So let me ask you: is there somebody else on the crew or around that might be a member of Underbelly that I can call for aid? Because I think what I want to do is call out, and this might not even be call for aid necessarily, but I think I want to turn to Polly and say, hey, if we want to take a quick moment and film some rival stuff, Alistair and I have some real history, and that could be some really juicy reality content. If you want to get a quick confessional, maybe a quick interview with Alistair, and really kind of get our rivalry going, that would be a really exciting thing for the viewers.
Ooh, I love that. I think, as much as I want to get into the faction moves, I think that's probably a sway with Polly Paquette.
Then I am going to mark an objectivity here as well. So this is going to be my first mark of objectivity, just to give myself that 3d6, take the two low or take the two highest, because this feels like a moment to mark objectivity.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment here.
And this feels like leaning into like the theming of objectivity. This feels like a moment where I am losing a sense of I am losing a piece of my like ability to be the sort of reserved observer of things, because I'm kind of leaning into the sort of like play of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so glad I rolled that third dice. I specifically set aside, so I'm going to here's dice chat with Jeff for a second. I grabbed my 2d6, the 2d6 that I was most excited to use here, and those are my Insane Clown Posse d6s with a Hatchet Man on the 6.
Incredible for Absurdia.
And then I grabbed this sort of like ectoplasmy neon highlighter colored one that kind of is like that looks like Ghostbusters like goop to be my third dice in case I was rolling 3d6. And both times that has been the highest of the three rolls. And I'm very, very happy that I keep rolling it.
That's fabulous. I like that you've set aside like a specific one for your extra die so you know if it was worth it or not.
Yeah, I need to know. I just got to know. So that is an 11.
Okay, on a 10 plus, they'll do it for the reason that you gave them. So I think Polly turns the camera away from Alistair and faces you, and you see like the blinking red dot, and you get the sense that he's kind of contemplating for a second, and then he shouts, "Cut!" And the entire scene freezes. All the drones, all the people, Cosmo, everyone in your shop freezes except you. And Polly looks at you with the camera lens and says, "All right, so yeah, hit me with some of that rivalry stuff. Tell me, like, what's the deal with you and Alistair?"
And starts kind of like, remember how I said I was bringing a real punk rock edge to the antique scene in Absurdia? Alistair Berg is the opposite. Alistair thinks that antiques should be priceless and treasured, and thinks that lucha masks and film memorabilia aren't real antiques. Alistair's kind of what we call a stuffed shirt around here. And is really like leaning in and playing it up, and really like kind of I think subtly, and we can call this a roll if we'd like. I think subtly, like specifically putting in a lot of Alistair says this or thinks this, to kind of really consciously like put a lot of opportunities for Alistair to have to explain themselves, to make this, to draw this out so that Chad has more time to move this harp.
Okay. Yeah, let's call this a hoodwink, I think.
Okay.
Lie, mislead, or trick. I think you're trying to put the attention back on Alistair here.
That is a 7.
Okay, on a 7 and 9, your ploy works, but I will introduce a complication or consequence. So I think what we get is a scene of you, like the camera on you saying these things about Alistair. And then we get like a side-by-side of some footage of Alistair before the show began.
Mm-hmm.
The Chad has, such lowbrow taste. It's a real blight on our, beautiful neighborhood of Absurdia. Just the lowest, basest form of entertainment and memorabilia. I can't wait to try to put him out of business. But we get these two side by side. And I think Polly looks at you and says, okay, great. Yeah, I'm loving this rivalry. Like, folks are gonna eat this up. Thanks. You're being a real sport about this. All right, action. And Alistair is starts lurching forward ahead again towards the harp. But we see one of the drone cameras fly forward, and we hear Polly's voice as it sort of intercepts Alistair and saying, "Do you think you're too good for storage games? Do you think your wares are a little too highbrow? How do you respond to the allegations that you're just in it for the money and you don't really care about the objects. And Alistair's trying to get by this drone camera with Polly's voice, but he's not able to do it. So, you've bought yourself some time here, but it's fleeting.
And I've got one shot to get through this. Like I've only got a few seconds. I know exactly what I'm going to have to do. This is a real Chekhov's gun, or rather Chekhov's magical feather situation. I'm going to mark an objectivity, which is through 2 objectivity, because one of them was the doll. So that's my second objectivity marked, and I'm gaining the power of flight. I think I pick up the feather. I have like I kind of there's like some strings, some loose threads on my ascot, and I kind of tie it to the thread, and I start to like levitate, and I push myself like over Alistair's head towards the harp to try and grab it and pull it upstairs as quick as possible.
Yeah, give me a roll to face fear. When you attempt something risky in the face of fear or danger, roll plus pluck. Go ahead and take a +1, I think, because you've got your wings on you here.
And I'm gonna mark that third objectivity as I'm burning through these. This is a one shot. Feels like the right time to do it.
Yeah.
So we're rolling. So that time I really didn't need to do it because I got 2 hatchet men sitting in front of me and also a 1, so it was specifically the lowest of the rolls, and also I rolled a 12 without them, so that's a 14.
Beautiful. On a 10+, you accomplished what you set out to do. So what does this look like?
This looks like the clock is ticking down, right? I think that we're very close to the end, right? Alistair is wrapping up.
There's like 30 seconds left.
We're getting the countdown from 30 and like kind of steps back, pauses just for a quick second as like the camera floats over the bidding bros just to be like, that's an authentic, that trench coat's authentic from the set of No More Cowboys, and like runs and does like a flying, like kind of, you ever see the music video for Weapon of Choice, the Fatboy Slim song with Christopher Walken?
I have not.
Oh, he does a whole dance, and then at the end of it, he takes off flying, and it's very similar aesthetic of like runs and just flies over the head. And it's like a large harp, so it's like a little awkward. So it's like bumping stairs and things, but like does manage to pull it upstairs, tumble into the attic or into the second floor storage in like a big heap, runs into some boxes, breaks some things, and is just like hacking and coughing like, oh, damn it, ow, oh. And I think as he hits those boxes is when it gets down to 0.
Definitely. I think there's the laugh track one more time as you sort of crash land. And we see,
laugh it up.
But we see Alistair running towards, the stairs, trying to get it, and then the buzzer goes off, and the studio audience, gives like another laugh, more directed at Alistair, and then a round of applause for you as you've held on to your prized possession here, your player harp. And from downstairs, I think you hear Polly Paquette's voice say, "And that's all our time, folks. Our participants have had their chance, and we'll see what they got after our commercial break." And I think downstairs, you can see sort of down the stairs, all 5 of these folks, Hank and Tank, the animatronic mouse, and Alistair and the unnamed other one who we didn't get to, are all just like sucked out of your store.
Oh, what a day. What a day.
And Polly in his all black baggy clothes walks up to the foot of the stairs and says, "Hey Chad, thanks for being such a good sport about this. You were really great. The rivalry dynamic, it's gonna be great. Any last words for the folks at home?"
Come to the Scenic Shadow Cabinet, located right at the corner of the feeling of someone looking over your shoulder boulevard and the aesthetic of an empty McDonald's lane. We're open 7 days a week. Come by, take a tour, have a great day. Come if you dare.
And I think Cosmo pops up next to your side and gives a big thumbs up. And the red light on Polly Paquette's camera head turns off. And he starts walking out and says, "Yeah, great job, Chad. Thanks. Good job, Chad. Thanks so much. You'll get your chance to dive into the interdimensional storage unit. Just check your mail for that. And we'll see you next time on Storage Games."
And I think as Polly leaves, the sounds of a harp on the second floor can be heard. And we kind of like follow the camera up the stairs, and like around everybody, like around us is like in the second store, like the visuals of, I'm trying to think, what's the last thing that Chad and Cosmo did together? It's like a special memory for Chad and Cosmo very particularly. I think it is it's a food truck festival, so there are like full-size food trucks like sitting around in the second floor storage of this building. And I think that what we see, the way that this becomes horrifying, like the reason that he did not want Alistair to have this, maybe it's specifically that like we kind of see we had said like it's your most treasured memory, but like it's a very specific intersection of memories. And we see, at this food truck festival, we see Alistair having gotten like a big box of food and then wipes out and just gets food all over themselves. And Cosmo and Chad are just cracking up about it. It's your most treasured memory that is also someone else's most embarrassing memory.
Oh, that's very good.
It's the specific intersection of a memory that you treasure, because it's like we see Chad and Cosmo like walking and having a great day, and this being an event that the two of them put together, that is also a moment when Alistair just thoroughly embarrassed himself. And so like you can picture someone in your mind's eye and see those cross sections of moments. And I think Chad did not want Alistair to have insight into what was embarrassing for Chad.
Yeah, I think perhaps with the harp, you can also like see other people, like anyone who's played it or had it played. So yeah, definitely.
Which I love, because that makes it just very petty.
Oh, extremely. And we see a dejected Alistair along with the other contestants sort of walking down the street away from the Shadow Cabinet.
And I think that's game.
I think so.
Damn, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. That was great. That was good energy. I had so much fun with that.
Oh, that was a blast. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you for designing this game. Thank you for running it for me. This put the biggest smile on my face.
I'm thrilled to hear it.
Real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you, your work, and Absurdia online?
Yeah, so you can find Absurdia at quinn.itch.io/Absurdia, or just by Googling Absurdia RPG. That's where you can find the one game I've designed if you want to follow. Who knows if I'll design others. I'm a Luddite. I'm not on Twitter, but I'm usually behind the wheel at Monster Hour Pod, which is the actual play podcast that I am the GM/keeper of on a regular basis.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for playing this game with me. I had the absolute best time. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Quinn for coming on to the show. That game was, like, it immaculately captured the vibe, and I'm so happy with it. I had the biggest smile on my face playing it, editing it. It was a really special game. Be sure to pick up your own copy of Absurdia at quinn.itch.io, and be sure to follow Quinn and Monster Hour on Twitter at Monster Hour Pod. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. You can also find us on TikTok at Party of One Podcast, Tumblr at Party of One Pod, or join our Discord community at bit.ly/Party of One Discord. Meanwhile, if you want to support the show, you can support us at patreon.com/JeffStormer or ko-fi.com/JeffStormer, or you can leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Podchaser. Tell a friend about the show, leave us some love on social media. All of those things are great. They all do a lot to help the show grow and do bigger, better, and cooler things. You can also head to our merch store at bit.ly/Party of One merch and pick up some stuff with Party of One logo on it. Then, after all of those things, if you're looking for some other podcasts to listen to, I have two to recommend for you. All My Fantasy Children is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network, where every week my best friend Aaron Catano-Saez and I take a listener-submitted prompt, we spin it into an original fantasy character, and populate a shared universe one story at a time. Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast is a slice-of-life actual play about a quiet home, a heartless witch, and all the many people that make their homes inside. You can find that at tinyurl.com/Yazeba's podcast. Party of One is, as always, edited and produced by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Rain featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming onto the show as a guest, or about press coverage, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And I think, unless I'm mistaken, that's all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.